Hey everybody, BlendMaster here with another tutorial, and today I want to be showing you guys how to take any 2D image that you have, such as this one here, and convert it in Blender to create a 3D object like this. So let's jump into Blender and get started. So the first thing we want to do is delete both the cube and the lamp by pressing X to delete, and we're going to select our camera here and press Alt-G and Alt-R to clear its location and rotation. Then we can press G to move it, and Z to restrict it to only the Z axis. We'll press 10 and enter so that we move it exactly 10 units up. Now we can press 0 on the numpad to go to our camera view, and if we press N it'll bring up this properties tab here. And we want to scroll down to where it says background images, and we'll check that and then click add image, and we'll click this button here, and we're going to find our 2D image which we want to convert into a 3D object. So I've just added in my logo here, and as you can see it's stretched and distorted, and that's because the resolution of our camera does not match the actual resolution of our image. So I know that my image is 1920 by 1920, so the only thing we need to do to fix this is come over to our render settings here and change our resolution. So currently it's at 1920 by 1080, and I'm just going to switch it to 1920 by 1920, and that should fix everything. So that's looking good. Now, to actually convert this into a 3D object, we're going to add in a bezier curve, just like that by pressing Shift A, and then we'll tab into edit mode, and with everything selected, we'll press V and click vector. So essentially what that did is it got rid of the curviness of this curve object and just made it a straight line. So now what we can do is just select the middle point of each segment and just position it along the outline of our 2D image. Just like that. And we want to do this for our entire image, and to add more segments all we're going to do is press E to extrude. And you just want to follow along the outline simply like that. And obviously the more precise you are with this, the better your final image will look. I'm just going to roughly do this like that, and I'm going to speed up this portion of the tutorial as well so you don't have to sit through me doing this the whole time. Alright, so I'm done outlining our 2D image here, and to close off this section all I want to do is right click on the center point of this segment, and then hold Shift and right click the center point of our last segment, and if we press F it'll fill it automatically. So now if we tab out of edit mode and hide our background image, you'll see that we only have the outline done. So to get the next part of our image done, we'll tab back into edit mode and select this center point, and you press Shift D to duplicate it, and it'll just separate that segment from the rest of our curve. And now we can just press E to extrude this again like we did before, and we'll have another curve object within this 3D object. So I'm just going to do that again, and then select the first and last segment and press F to fill it just like that. So that's looking pretty good. Now for the letters I'm going to press, go back to camera view. I'll press Shift D to duplicate it again. And for this B, even though it has a curve, I'm going to press E to extrude and only extrude it to the main points. So this point right here before it starts curving, then this point here where the curve changes, and then that point again. I'll do it for the second part here, just like that. And then we'll press F to fill it again. Let's press Shift D to duplicate it and do the inside real quick, just like that. Fill it again, and then Shift D, E to extrude, just along the main points. And you'll notice that after we're done doing this, you'll see that we have a straight line here and it's not following the curve of our B. And to fix that, all we need to do is select the edge of the segment, not the center point. We want to select the last vertex of this segment. And if we press G, you'll see that it's adding this curve here. So you just want to adjust these two handles in between so that the curve follows along our image. We're just going to do that for every section where there is a curve like that. So I'm going to speed up this portion of the video as well, so you don't have to sit through me adjusting this and tweaking it, as well as finishing the outline for this second letter. Alright, so we're done outlining our entire 2D image here. So let's tab out of edit mode and uncheck our background image. And this looks pretty nice. But as you can see, we don't have a 3D object yet. It's just an outline. So to fix that, we'll come over here to the curve settings. We're going to switch it from 3D to 2D. And you'll see that it already filled in our image. So that's one step closer. Now all we need to do is come over to this extrude option here under the geometry tab. And I'm going to switch that to something like 0.1. You can immediately see that we now have our 3D objects here. And the shading is looking a little bit weird because it's set to smooth. So to fix that, we're just going to add in an edge split modifier. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I just showed you how to convert any 2D image that you have into a 3D object. First you want to add in a bezier curve and switch it to a vector. And then just follow the outlines and close them off, and then duplicate for any other lines inside your image. And then after that, make sure your curve settings are set to 2D and the fill is set to both. And then just add in your extrude value to get whatever thickness you want for your 3D object. So now that we're done creating our 3D object, I thought I'd show you guys how to make a cool wallpaper with your new image. So if you saw my previous tutorial where I showed you how to create a cool sci-fi grill wallpaper, we're actually going to use that for the background. So let's go to File, Append, and I'm going to find that blend file where I made it, and come over to Objects, and I'm actually going to add in the light object as well as our actual grill object, just like that. And with our 3D object selected, I'm actually going to switch the extrude back to 0 because I don't need it for this wallpaper. Then I'm going to go to front view and orthographic view and Z to go to wireframe mode. And I'm just going to press G and Z to move it right above our grill wallpaper like that. And so now you can see that it's a little too big for a wallpaper, so I'm just going to press S to scale and 0.5 to make it half our size. And I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate it. And for this one, I'm going to set the fill mode to none. So this makes it just an outline. But we want it to actually have a bevel. So over here under the bevel settings, we're going to change this depth to something like 0.05. That looks pretty good. But you can see that it has some sharp edges here. So I'm going to change this resolution to about 6 so it's nice and smooth. So that's looking pretty good. Now what I want to do is switch over to from the Blender engine to the Cycles engine. We're going to open up a new window here. Whoops. Right there. We're going to switch this to the node editor. I'll press N to get rid of that tab here. And with our outline selected, we'll click New. And we're just going to name this Metal. And I'm going to delete this diffuse shader, and instead we're going to add in a glossy shader. And let's make sure this is set to a pure white color, and we're going to change the roughness to 0. And if we go to rendered view right now, we can see that the only reflection it's getting is from our light object. I'll press T and N to get rid of those tabs there. And it's only reflecting this light here and our gray background. That's why we're getting this gray light here. So if we change this to some other color, you would see the reflection's different. But it's pretty boring right now. So what I'm going to do is add an environment texture. And I'm also going to make the background transparent so we don't actually see the HDR image, but we just get the reflections on our glossy object. So let's go back here, open it up, and I'm just going to use this HDR of a kitchen that I have. and you can see that the reflections are much more complex, and it just makes it look a lot better. So that's it for the glossy material. Now let's select our 2D object here, give it a new material and just name it diffuse. And I'm just going to give this a nice bluish color like that. So let's press Shift Z to take a look at that. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. So you can just play around with this color for anything that you really want, whether you want a desaturated blue or a more saturated one. It's really up to you. I think that's something that looks pretty good. And I actually think this light here is a little too strong, so I'm going to decrease the strength to about 2. Let's see how that looks. I think that's pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. And if we take a look now, you can see that our camera's ratio is not matching the wallpaper we want. So I'm just going to switch this resolution to 1920 to back to 1080. Then we'll press G and the middle mouse button to zoom in again so that our wallpaper fills our entire camera view. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now for the render settings, I'm just going to switch the samples to about 100. And I'm also going to check denoising. Now I'm just going to render this out. I'll pause the recording now and come back when it's done. Alright, so it's done rendering, and as you can see we still have this transparent background here. So to get rid of that, let's just jump over to the compositor real quickly. Let's check Use Nodes and Backdrop and press Ctrl up arrow to make it full screen. And if we press Ctrl Shift and left click, it'll add in our viewer node here. And all we need to do is add in a alpha over node. Just plug this image into the bottom socket and take the alpha from our image and plug it into the factor. Now whatever color we switch this top socket to, that'll be our background. And I just want it to be black because I think that looks the best for our image. And if we exit that now and just plug this into the composite node, should refresh our rendered image. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.